Welcome to a presentation on disability etiquette, presented by ACAP, the Adaptive Community Approach Program, located in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Our efforts are funded in partnership with the Wisconsin Board for People with Developmental Disabilities Sparks Grant. Sparks Grants are intended to ignite change in the community. Before we get started, we'd like to ask you,
What would you do?
what would you do if you saw someone using a wheelchair? Would you smile? Say hi? Look away? Do you ask, what happened? What's wrong? What would you do if you met a person with a service animal? Pet the animal? Whistle for it? Call its name? What if someone is speaking to you and you don't understand them? Do you pretend to understand? Do you walk away? We're here to help. Whether you are working with or for someone with a disability, or you have a personal relationship, preferred language, positive interactions, and inclusion are important areas to understand and become sensitive to, so you may enhance the value of your interactions with people who have disabilities. Keep in mind, people with disability labels constitute our nation's largest minority group. This group is the only one which any person can become a part of at any time. Some join at birth, others join in a split second of an accident, through illness, or by the aging process. If and when it happens to you, how will you want to be described? Let's start with preferred language. What we say and how we say it can either enhance the dignity of people with disabilities or inadvertently reflect and perpetuate stereotypes and negative attitudes. To enhance the dignity of people with disabilities, here are a few suggestions. Tip number 1, use person-first language. The best way you can respect a person is by acknowledging that they are a person first. For example, a child with autism versus an autistic child. A child with autism indicates that the autism is an aspect of the individual, while the autistic child indicates the autism is their defining quality. People want you to see their ability before you see their disability. Tip number 2, refer to a person's disability only when it's related to what you are talking about. For example, asking questions like, what's wrong? What happened? Can make people feel uncomfortable. Tip number 3, don't refer to people in general or generic terms, such as the guy in the wheelchair or the disabled. All people are unique and should not be defined by their disability. Another tip? Tip number 4, when talking about accommodations for people to access their community, use the term accessible rather than disabled or handicapped. A parking space cannot be disabled. It has been made accessible so that people using wheelchairs or other adaptive equipment or experiencing health conditions may access their community. Another consideration regarding preferred language: when talking about people with disabilities, it's okay to say people without disabilities. But do not refer to them as normal or healthy. This can cause people with disabilities to feel like they are strange or abnormal. Lastly, when in doubt, call a person with a disability by his or her name. Moving on, let's talk about positive interactions. Etiquette is a code of polite behavior. It boils down to respect. Suggestion number 1. Treat adults as adults. For example, don't pat a person with a disability on the head. Talk with a typical tone of voice. Have a conversation as you would with any other adult. Suggestion number 2. View a person's equipment as an extension of their body. Avoid leaning on, sitting in, touching, or placing objects on anything that enables independence. That's their personal space. While we're on the topic of equipment, let's make one thing clear. Wheelchairs mobilize, not confine. Another suggestion, just because a person has a disability does not mean they need help. You may offer assistance if the person appears to be struggling, but also be respectful if the person prefers to be independent and declines the offer. People with disabilities are the best judge of what they can and cannot do. Suggestion number 4. Don't make decisions about another person's participation in anything. It's unrealistic to cover every situation or circumstance you may encounter. If you can remember or take away one thing from this presentation that remains constant, is that people are people. We are social beings. Everyone wants to feel connected, and people with disabilities are no exception. Respectful language and positive interactions are the foundation of good relationships with anyone. Now that your awareness has expanded, let's empower people with disabilities even further through inclusion. Inclusion of people with disabilities into everyday activities involves practices and policies that are designed to identify and remove barriers, such as physical, communication, and attitudinal, that restrict individuals' ability to have full participation in society, the same as people without disabilities. Inclusion involves getting fair treatment in education, at work, and in the community. Inclusion involves universal design, reasonable accommodations, and eliminating stigmas and stereotypes. People with disabilities in the 21st century are finding their own voice in determining what words define us, how people interact with us, and how we are included in our society. Let's stop tolerating or accepting difference as if we're so much better for not being different in the first place. Instead, let's celebrate difference, because in this world, it takes a lot of guts to be different.